Hey, and welcome to the first ever Super Acquaintances College Baseball podcast. My name is Travis. I've got five of my just best acquaintances here with me. And we'll do a little bit of a round robin introductions in just a moment. But just to lay out what this podcast is and what's going to be, we want to be your one-stop shop for coming and getting the most in-depth college baseball analysis as you can. Hopefully leave it a couple laughs as well. This podcast started as the result of a completely arbitrary, contrived fantasy college baseball league. So just to break it down, 3,000-foot view, we developed our own, well, I developed our own college baseball fantasy league, drafting teams instead of players. So we all are essentially the owners of our own conferences, managing teams played in different conference slots. So every single week we have to pick a team for the ACC, the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, forgetting
And
one.
AAC.
The American Athletic Conference and the Big 12. So Power 5 schools in the AAC. So the best way to go about this, again, scoring is based on the run differentials that each team records on their wins and losses. It weights two ranked teams playing each other more heavily. So, for example, Kansas and Kansas State, they're two unranked teams playing each other, doesn't have as much playoff implication as LSU playing. Texas, for example, hasn't happened yet, but the LSU Texas series would be weighted higher and be rewarded or penalized with more points because those teams are ranked higher. Lastly, it also takes into account the difference in ranking for each team. So again, if LSU plays Kansas, LSU is going to lose a lot more points. If they lose that game that they shouldn't, then if Kansas is able to pull off the upset, they'll be rewarded with a much larger number of points. So that's all for that. We'll get into a little bit more interesting, at least I think so, stuff. So to kick off this league and to carry us into an actual discussion of college baseball, we are all becoming the subject matter experts on the teams that we drafted and we own in this fantasy league. In the draft we ran, and the first person that I'll let do their introduction is TJ. He had the number one overall pick in the draft. So I'll let him take over here and talk about the teams he drafted, how he approached the draft, and once everybody gives their recap, we'll move on to a summary of the first 2 weeks of college baseball and where we stand. Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, so what's up, everybody? Wow, that was great. What's up, everybody? I'm TJ. A little bit about myself. I've been dubbed the world's greatest bullpen catcher by the one and only lefty, Travis Sentrop. 9U national champion MVP. Just got all the accolades you could ever want. So my draft approach was just shoot from the hip, to be completely honest. I was the first pick, so I picked the number one overall, which was Texas. And then from there on, I just kind of went through teams that I kind of knew had some pretty solid previous years. That's really what I did. Do you want me to go through my whole picks, or?
Yeah, do you have a favorite college team before we would start this draft?
I have a favorite college team? I mean, my favorite college baseball team is probably the University of Oregon. I'm a very flashy guy. I just went with them because of their uniforms.
Did you draft Oregon?
I did draft Oregon. I drafted them number 3 overall, and they have gotten me about 3 total points.
You drafted them number 3 overall.
Three.
I don't think that.
13.
Third round.
Way higher than should have been, but third round is
all right.
nonetheless.
So yeah, let's take us through your the order in which you drafted teams.
Yeah. So
and if any stand out to you.
First round, obviously went with Texas. They're having a pretty solid year. I mean, we'll get into it, but this past weekend with Alabama was insane. My second round was NC State. I mean, I don't think they need any introduction. Yeah, I don't think they need any introduction there. Third round went Oregon. Obviously, my favorite team. They're still on the board, so I was like, why not pick them? Fourth round, I went back over to the ACC and picked Maryland. That's not an ACC school, but that's fine. Fifth round, I picked Wichita State. Probably one of the worst decisions I've ever done was pick Wichita State because I'm pretty sure they've gotten me negative points the whole time. Number 6, Georgia. I had to just because Travis was choosing Georgia Tech, and I always have to have a rivalry with him. 7th round, I went with Rutgers for the sole fact that I'm 25 minutes away from the campus, so I'm going to go to some games and get some experience there with one of the buddies, Eric. 8th round, I went Texas A&M because who doesn't love Bluebell Park and the wonderful Ball 4 chants. 9th, I went USC, and then 10th, which was the final pick of the draft with Mr. Irrelevant, I went with Wake Forest. So.
Awesome. Yeah, Bluebell Park is definitely, I mean, I haven't been to a ton of college baseball stadiums, but Bluebell Park is up there for sure. Okay. Who had I think Eric, did you have the number 2 pick, or Benji, one of you two?
Yeah. No, I had 2.
All right. What's your deal, Eric?
So about myself, occasional starter, occasional bench player for the North Carolina Indians. Shout out to the best men's league team out there. You can tell by the hoodie if you're watching our YouTube. Big Texas Tech fan. An 11U assistant coach making his way through the coaching ranks. So kind of my draft strategy was I tried to spread load through all the conferences and try to take the best team available in a conference that I didn't have. And with the 2nd round pick, I went with Tennessee, which was a pretty solid pick if you watched any of the previous games. And then the 2nd best team available, I was going to take ECU, but Sue just beat me to it.
Yeah, good thing he didn't.
And I was able to pick up Arizona, who has kind of been carrying me. Then I traveled down to the ACC and took Virginia because they were the best ACC team in the draft left. And then for the 4th round, I went Tulane. So I didn't really know what to expect from the American Conference, just based off of the last 3 years. Took what I thought was the best American Conference team. Big 12, went with Baylor just because Big 12 was mostly picked out, so I was kind of slim pickings there. And then the last conference I didn't have with my 6th round was the Big 10. I went with Indiana, who I've already dropped and picked up Purdue in the free agency pool because Indiana's not it. No, they got me plus points for this week. And then UCF was still on the board. So they're the 2nd best team in the American Conference. So I went ahead and snagged them for flex play position and maybe possible future trades. Texas Tech was already picked too, and I still need another Big 12 team because Baylor wasn't going to do it for me. So I picked up Kansas State. And then with the 9th pick, traveled down to the Pac-12 again since that was my 2nd round pick. I hadn't picked one up yet. I picked up Washington State, who they're a pretty solid baseball team so far through the first 2 weeks. Then with my last pick, Clemson was just the best team available. Didn't really expect much out of them throughout the season, but they've done pretty well through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, Tennessee going at number 2 overall was shocking to me. Leading into the draft, especially Benji, he'll be next to run through his draft. Took Vanderbilt as his number 1 round choice, and to see Tennessee go before Vanderbilt was I was shocked. But if you've been watching college baseball at all, then and if you haven't, we're going to be telling you all about it. But Tennessee has been running the table.
Tennessee has been shocking.
To my chagrin.
Lipscomb.
Even Tennessee above Arkansas or Mississippi State was still mind-boggling to me, but it was fantastic.
Pretty crazy to watch, but it has paid big dividends
Don't
for sure.
Jinx
for
me.
We're trying to.
It's going to be interesting once they get into conference play too. See how Tennessee pans out.
Definitely. All right, Benji, I know I kind of name dropped a little bit there with the Vandy pick, but breeze us through the rest of your picks.
Vandy, I took number 1. They've always been my favorite school since 2014. I was a big Dansby Swanson guy, still am. Love the guy. Trying to grow my hair out. I like him actually right now, so hopefully that works out. My 2nd pick was Notre Dame, being from Indiana. Notre Dame's my favorite Indiana school, and they were still available, so I wanted to get them. That was literally just solely based off of my liking for them, but they've actually paid off pretty well. And screwed me because I put them on my bench for a couple days. So I've kind of screwed myself by not playing them. I'm learning from those mistakes now, though. My next pick was Oklahoma State, and I got pretty lucky with that one being available still. Except for the first week, we'll get into it. I chose wrong versus Vandy. But my next pick was I wanted to make sure I got a team from each conference that we had available, so I picked up Michigan. They've paid off a little bit. Most of their multipliers are pretty low, so I haven't had big points from them, but they've always put out good numbers for me so far. And then the only available American League or American Conference team that I had that I thought would pay off somewhat decent was South Florida. And they've actually done pretty well for me. They put up 17 runs today, and I'll take that for points-wise, especially versus Jowers. So everybody's got to beat that, man.
Games are still going.
The surprising one that I've thoroughly enjoyed following, though, so far is Oregon State. I took them in the 6th round, and they're actually surprising me because they've only scored less than double digits like 3 times so far this season. So they're actually putting up decent numbers, decent points, so we'll get into that, though, too. And then North Carolina, Virginia Tech also has some sleepers on their team that I'm actually really interested to see how they perform this season. And then Ohio State and Auburn were just last 2 picks available, and they haven't really done much for me. But I'm interested to see where they go, so we'll see how the rest of the season goes and see if they actually start performing a little better. Hopefully they do.
Sweet. And what, 30 seconds about yourself, Benji, just for the listeners.
Well, I'm good at everything. I'm great at nothing. So
all right, now if you go read the website, you'll apparently learn everything there is to know about Benji.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of baseball. I've always been a big fan. I stopped playing in middle school, early high school, so I haven't done a lot with it. But just love following the sport. I have a bunch of baseball cards, baseball memorabilia, so I love everything about it. So that's me, though.
Sweetness, perfect. All right. The man in the Oklahoma shirt, I believe, had the number 4 overall pick. And could you introduce yourself there, Suges?
Our sponsor.
I am the sponsor. I'm Austin. I'm from Dallas,
Conflict
Texas.
of interest? No.
And my favorite team's the Oklahoma Sooners. So yeah, basically baseball, man. It's been a part of my life since. I played t-ball all the way through high school, and I got kids. A bunch of my buddies, they played D1 for Baylor, TCU, DBU. So I kind of been in through the industry throughout the
Slight
years,
flex.
Yeah. So hopefully we can get them on later on in the podcast. But you want me to run down my draft?
Yeah, just burn it down. Let's pick up the pace here a little bit.
All right, so I got Arkansas first. I just thought they were the best on the board at the time. And I got unfortunate pick of Eastern Carolina with the second pick. They haven't panned out. They were supposed to be the number 1 favorite, though, in that conference. So I don't know what's happening with them. And then next, I really like this pick is Ole Miss. I'm pretty sure they're undefeated this year.
Sickest jerseys by far.
Yeah, they got really nice jerseys. And then right after that, I picked Texas Tech. I just thought they were, the best available Big 12 team at the time. Unfortunately, I couldn't pick Oklahoma at that spot because they're just mid-grade. So I thought Texas Tech could be pushing like top 10, top 15 by the end of the year. Right after that, I got Duke. They were projected top 25 throughout the year, so I thought it was a good pick there. And then the rest of the 5 teams, I just kind of blew through them. I just went with it. I went Arizona State, South Carolina, Alabama, Kansas, and Penn State. So after the draft, I kind of knew I needed to recoup. So I went and traded Travis for my favorite team, Oklahoma, and picked up UCLA and Florida State from him too.
Yeah, just for the record, I didn't trade all 3 of those teams just for Oklahoma. But we'll talk about that in a second. Brendan, so I had the number 5 pick, but I'll turn things to Brendan real quick. So he had the 6th pick, the back-to-back pick, and then I'll cover mine and talk about the trade, and then segue into some actual talk about college baseball.
Yeah. So I'm Brendan. I'm a full-time student at LSU. Not good at playing baseball, but I can at least watch it. I was probably top 2 or 3 worst right fielders for the North Carolina Indians. Couldn't catch a fly ball to save my life.
Can confirm.
Can you tell the folks who the North Carolina Indians are?
That's the
some real street cred.
It's an awful rec league in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
But we had a winning record. But we had a winning record.
Team. Yeah, for sure.
They're gross.
Until Joe was a traitor.
So my draft strategy is I devised a plan, strength of schedule, RPI last year, runs scored, and shutouts. Mississippi State was clear-cut number 1. They're not very good. So that's who I picked with my first pick. I regret that every day of my life. Had to go with the hometown Tigers, number 2. They're doing great. As long as we don't count midweek games, they're fantastic. Went with TCU with number 3. They got the sweep over my next pick this week, Nebraska. Picked up Miami, even though they had some struggles. One game, it feels like every series, but they're doing all right. Cincinnati, that's who I picked out of the AAC. I wish I didn't. They're very bad. Louisville was my second pick out of the ACC. They've been doing all right. They've been putting up some big runs, but they're not who they used to be. Kentucky's got their first 7-0 start. Can't complain since 2012. Then to round it out, I had Cal, Illinois. I wish Illinois wasn't on my team, but there's no one else.
Yeah.
Hey, Penn State.
No, I'll keep Illinois.
Penn State was his first Big Ten draft pick, by the way.
Penn State can qualify as a no.
They were my last pick. Had to pick them.
Haven't been great since Sandusky, I'll tell you that.
So my name is Travis again. I know I mentioned that already. I went to Georgia Tech for my undergrad. I walked onto the team as a freshman. I was a left-handed pitcher. Got cut the day before the season started. My only claim to fame is that Joey Bart once gave me a box of tampons and a 2-pound dumbbell for a Secret Santa present. So maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll get him on the podcast at some point.
Catcher you.
Is there a story behind why?
Yeah, so I hurt my back squatting like a couple of weeks before Christmas. So I hadn't been, I was doing PT instead of team workouts. So I'm pretty sure the whole Secret Santa thing was like a sarcastic thing. And so, yeah, I hadn't been working out with the team. So, yeah, I threw the box of tampons away on the walk back to my apartment, but I still have the I'll see if I can dig out the dumbbell. I think it's in my box of things. So maybe, if we make it to episode number 2, I'll have my pink dumbbell here. Anyway,
Friday.
Yeah, that's right.
Glad to hear you didn't put the tampons to use.
Yeah, that was a pretty snap decision. So my draft strategy, I looked at all the conferences. I had the number 5 pick. I knew teams like Arkansas and Vandy were going to be off the board. Those are two teams that I like to follow. I thought the Pac-12 was one of the weakest overall conferences based on how the last couple of years have gone. So I really wanted to get one of the top teams there, and Stanford was still on the board. I have a connection at work through one of the doctors that work, actually a couple of doctors that work for Stanford. So I definitely wanted to get them. Second round, I had to pick my alma mater, Georgia Tech. I think they can be a powerhouse in the ACC this year. Third pick, I went to the SEC. My grandfather pitched for Florida when he was in college, and my mom's cousin also did. So I've always enjoyed following that team. Fourth round pick, I went back to the Pac-12 to try to establish some dominance there. I picked UCLA. Fifth round, Florida State was still on the board, which was shocking because they were top 25 consensus team. They've been playing their butts off so far this year. And then the rest of the list, Iowa was my Big 10 team. OU is my Big 12 team. If I didn't get East Carolina out of the AAC, I was really not going to worry about getting a team there. So I picked Houston. I picked Pitt because I actually live in Pittsburgh right now, so I can go to some games. And lastly, I picked West Virginia out of the Big 12 because I think my only Big 12 previously was OU, and they weren't really going to do much this year, in my opinion. So I wanted to get a backup, and I know. But West Virginia actually has kind of showed up. So as you just mentioned, we traded. I gave him Florida State, UCLA, and Who's the third one? Suges?
I don't know. Maybe the Boomer Sooner, the
Oh,
pride of
yeah.
Oklahoma.
The least priority team for me.
Yes.
And Suges in return gave me Arkansas, Arizona State, and Kansas State. So 2 of those teams are not so great, but I like to follow Arkansas, so I put that through. So now that you all have an understanding of what teams we're going to be doing our best to follow closely throughout the season and give our opinions on what's going on, highlight players' performances and team performances as a whole, we're going to do our best to cover what has been an absolutely crazy 2 weeks in college baseball. We've seen walk-offs already starting on night 1. We've seen cycles, we've seen beatdowns, we've seen comebacks.
Seen
web
walk-offs
gems.
get walked back on.
We've seen walk-offs get walked on. So as going forward, we're going to do our best to take you through how our fantasy matchups are developing, teams that are really responsible for our successes or failures against each other. But to summarize these 2 weeks of baseball, I think we'll just do a similar kind of round-robin format and do just teams that I think have been the top stories in college baseball, if that's okay with you guys. In my opinion, there hasn't been a bigger story than NC State and Tommy Taters. TJ drafted this team with his second pick. They've been producing runs like crazy. So I'll let him try to highlight what they've done in the first 2 weeks, and everyone else will kind of chime in if things have stood out to them or if they have any thoughts on their players or team.
Yeah, so I mean, NC State, the Wolfpack, really summed up by one player, Tommy White, freshman out of IMG down in Miami. Starting off the season batting a solid, respectable 588. 20 for 34, 9 home runs. He's had 9 home runs in 8 games. Name someone who's had a hotter start.
What more could you ask for?
Exactly. A hotter start for a freshman. Dude's 18 years old and just finding his stride. 29 RBIs, a double, and 11 runs so far. I'm interested to see where the season goes for him. I don't know if there's a Heisman equivalent for baseball, but if there was,
Yeah, it's the Golden Spikes Award.
oh, it is.
Spikes,
Oh, there is.
yeah.
That's an actual thing. Wow, didn't know
Well,
that.
now does he have high expectations for the rest of the year? Do people think he can really follow this through?
I don't know. I don't know if people think he can follow it through, but I think he's letting his bat speak for himself. I don't think
Follow
I
our
don't think I've
podcast
seen,
and you'll find out.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a home run that's been pulled from him, but I don't think anybody wants to be on the left side of that field.
So I'll say this about NC State and Tommy Tanks. Because NC State's still unbeaten, I believe, right?
Yes.
Because they came back against.
They
who
came
did
back
play
and
this
walked
weekend?
off. That was Quinnipiac.
Quinnipiac, yeah. So the most impressive thing for me, obviously, you want to see teams do it against premium competition. The most impressive at bat I think I saw from Tommy Tanks, because he's, I'm not going to say he can't continue the pace, because I would have said that after the first series, and he's continued it. The most impressive at bat I saw from him was on Friday when the Quinnipiac pitcher, we were texting our group chat, and I was texting these pitchers are an absolute, if I'm on the bump, I'm sorry, I'm not giving him anything close to hittable. So the Quinnipiac pitcher came in hard inside with 2 fastballs, and
Gets him down 0-2, I believe.
So Tommy White, which is also incredible, fouls both of them off, and these are fastballs at his hand, or hands rather. So he fouls both of them off. He's 0-2. He gets a hanging slider and just goes the opposite way for a casual. I can't remember if it was a double or single, but it was
Single.
it was pissed on.
Yeah.
And what half of his home runs have been to dead center or just barely oppo.
Yeah, dead center oppo. He has not pulled one yet. So
No. So he the most impressive thing for me was to see him getting that 0-2 count and then not continue to swing for the fences. The home runs are just coming,
doing a job.
coming naturally, and then fighting in that 0-2 count to rip a single like that was just, to me, really, really impressive.
Yeah, that whole NC State team. You got Sam Highfill, who's been dominant on the bump for his 2 starts. Dominic Pololi, he was another freshman who went 3 for 5 in that first game with 2 tanks, along to try to follow up Tommy White's 3 home run game. So I think they've got some promising young starters in their lineup. Not to mention, Tommy White did hit his first grand slam as well. So not only is he hitting his first home runs with the team, he's just hitting grand slams with them too. So
He's got like 20, almost 28 RBIs already?
29.
Something like that?
Yep.
It helps when you're knocking yourself in every at bat.
Yeah. It makes it
gotta be
so
close
easy.
to a
You get to
record.
walk around the bases.
A third of them being his own runs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll transition here, but NC State's still unbeaten. I think 8-0 now. We're gonna, on the next episode that comes out Friday, we'll summarize the weekday baseball and preview what's coming up the following weekend. But the other, in my mind, right, one of the other big stories is Texas. They came in pretty much the consensus number 1. I think one poll had Arkansas at number 1. They flat dominated their first series and showed a little bit of weakness. But what have you seen, TJ, from Texas so far? Like, I know you've said they've rewarded you with that number 1 pick. How do you feel about them going forward?
Yeah. So like you kicked it off with, I guess we can't say that because they faced Alabama in this last series, and that whole series you would have thought it was June the whole time. I mean, Brennan and I were texting about it. It was loud.
It was insane.
And they were
Full
close
stadiums.
games. Yeah, full stadiums, so packed out. Trey Faltine, I'm probably butchering his last name. They call him the Treyway on the Texas baseball Twitter. But he is he's steady carrying that Texas team right now. Some of the other standouts, I mean, yeah, in his first series against Rice, rather one of his series on Saturday against Rice, he went 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and 4 RBIs. I mean, you can't really ask much more out of a player than that. I'm super impressed with how their pitching's been doing.
That's actually what I was gonna say. Like, I think they're one of the best 1, 2, 3 like rotations in the nation. That I think Pete Hansen. I think
yep.
that's the number 1. I wanted to open this up to everybody. Like, the series against Alabama, I didn't see the score for today, but games 1 and 2,
4-1, I believe.
Yes, like not a blowout. And games 1 and 2 were both electric, like close the whole time. And to be honest, right, Alabama kind of pissed game 1 away. Like, they had a basically free win against the number 1 team in the country, left, God knows how many runners on base. So
they did that all weekend.
Yeah,
they did it all weekend. It wasn't even
their first weekend where they just dominated Rice. Their midweek, I'm pretty sure they beat like Texas A&M Corpus Christi by 1 run, I think. And now this weekend, right, Alabama almost like kind of put a move on them. Is that more credit to Alabama, you guys, or is that Texas like their bats aren't backing up what the pitching staff is doing?
I think it's credit to Alabama.
I also think when you have guys striking out on pitches that hit them in the helmet, kind of shows the way the approach at the plate is just hit. There's no real approach going up to the plate.
I was looking at the hitting stats for Texas just because I was facing Jowers this week, and they're definitely not even close to the standard of where their pitching is at.
Not even close, I agree.
So far beyond that's carrying their team. But, I mean, at the same time, they're still good. They have great potential, but their pitching is way more advanced than what their bats are showing.
I will agree with that. Their pitching's definitely carrying them to try to retain that number 1 seed, I guess.
Absolutely.
Are there any other teams like that, guys? I have one in mind that we can talk about a little bit, but are there any other teams that come to mind where the pitching has been dominant and the bats have been a little lacking? Especially when you talk about Power 5 teams early in the season like this, there are very few marquee matchups, and we should really get to that first weekend OK State Vanderbilt matchup after this. But
That was I was gonna say Vandy. Vandy has not been performing.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Bats-wise at
Yeah.
all, but their pitching has been, I mean, as good as it can be, but their bats are not performing to any standard of what I think any of us were probably expecting. Normally, they're pretty hot off the start, even throughout the whole season. Obviously, Vandy's always a great team; they're always top 10, but at the same time, they're not what I expected to have for this season.
Didn't they let up 7 runs to OSU too?
Yeah, they lost. So their first opening matchup was versus Oklahoma State, and they lost 2 of 3 in that weekend.
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch that series too closely. I'm not super concerned about Vanderbilt because after that series, when I was doing my like personal rankings, I had Oklahoma State up in the top 5 because I think they were number 7 and Vanderbilt was number 4, at least in D1 baseball. Winning that series, I vaulted them up like in the top 5 for sure, maybe top 3 or 4. But they've come out like really flat this weekend or in the week, right? I think they lost a midweek matchup to some, yeah,
they did lose. I forgot who they lost to. They did lose one game this week.
So, and I think they lost another one this weekend.
They're losing right now, actually 6-2 to Wright State.
So
they scored
I love to
27
hear
runs
this.
on them. So
there are 2 series that I think mirror each other in my opinion. We have Oklahoma State and Vanderbilt, where OK State went into Vanderbilt, took 2 of 3. I was ready to put them up in the top 5, and now they came out super duper flat, against really, really inferior competition. So I'm a little bit questioning. I want to see more from Vanderbilt and Oklahoma State to kind of get those images out of my mind. I think what series mimics that is the Mississippi State Long Beach series in weekend 1, where
Please don't talk about it.
we have to talk about it. I mean,
Yeah, we can't skip it.
and just to highlight, right, I'll let Brandon talk about the details. Long Beach comes into Mississippi State, takes 2 of 3. And again, I was ready to have Long Beach in my top 10. I'll be straight up. And Long Beach dropped 2 out of 3 so far, if they're not getting swept this weekend. So, and Mississippi State, right, they dominated midweek and then came out flat really again this weekend. So, Brent, if you want to talk about what you saw from Mississippi State as their owner.
with your number 1 draft pick and your super awesome
defending champion. Like, let's not let that slide.
And how did you say, what were you saying with their RPI past previous schedule strength? Yeah, okay. I just wanted to, they're still your number 1?
Please leave me alone.
You gotta put the Tigers over him, Brennan.
I can't.
Go
Not
Tigers.
when they drop a midweek game to LA Tech. That's even worse. So Mississippi State, first game. Sims comes out, 7th inning pitch. I mean, lights out, 13 strikeouts, right? So you're like, oh, this is going to be a pretty cool game. Not really. So that whole series, I think Long Beach State struck out 42 times. That's 14 times a game, and I mean, you're still losing to these teams that are barely stringing along hits. I was also ready to put Long Beach, I don't know, top 7, maybe 8. I mean, there was just nothing going on for Mississippi State that whole series. I think they pulled out the last game. What was it, 12-14? I mean, it was like Mississippi State flipped the switch.
Yeah. On Sunday, right?
On Sunday it was 12-4. Long Beach Long Beach fell apart that game. I mean, you would think they were going for the sweep. They had 18 different players bat for Long Beach State. It was like no one could find the ball. No one could do anything. And
it's crazy because like game 1, right? Landon Sims comes out dealing. Like he's I think SEC Pitcher of the Year.
Favorite. I have in my notes Landon Sims might be the best pitcher in the SEC.
And then Luis Ramirez from Long Beach State just came out and matched him like
absolutely.
pitch for pitch.
Yeah.
Made Mississippi State look just foolish.
With only 5 strikeouts too. That's what's blowing my mind. But it wasn't that Mississippi State wasn't finding the ball. They just weren't getting on base. And I guess they finally found it in that third game.
What happened with Mississippi State this weekend? It's cool. I can talk. I know Long Beach
No,
State, and this is why. Like,
But I mean, they dropped that first game to Northern Kentucky. I have in my notes.
Who?
Who was
exactly,
that?
Exactly.
What's their
Lennon
mascot?
might be the worst pitcher in baseball. 5 innings pitched, 4 runs, only 1 earned. I mean, they had a couple errors, so the defense really wasn't helping them out very much. Kind of looked like an LSU baseball game. Next game they put up 10-1, three home runs that game. They had 7 of their runs off just those 3 home runs. So I mean, they're just still trying to find the ball.
It's just wishy-washy.
That's all it is. Yeah. They went up 7-2 this past game. So hopefully looking for a better weekend next week.
I'm gonna ask a bold question to everyone, and this is, I don't want to spoil our rankings at the end of the show. Is Mississippi State a top 25 team right now?
No.
I think they're top 15.
Top 15?
Top 25 maybe. Top 10.
I think they're top 15.
Top 25, yes. Top 10, though.
I don't have them top 15 because I'm mad at them, but I think they're top 15.
I'm putting Iona before I put Mississippi State in the top 25 again.
Oh no!
Okay.
If I was homeless and they offered me a free ride with places to stay, I would choose to live in the streets.
So, about
Bold
Iona.
statement.
I don't think they're playing
About-
baseball anymore. I think they quit.
Anybody check up on them? Are they okay?
Did you see Tennessee's post? Saying if either team gets run ruled?
Yeah. We quoted it on our Twitter page. The coach was trying to save ERAs today.
So, I had the just wonderful fortune of playing Eric this weekend in fantasy baseball, and Eric owns Tennessee, and either of us could tell you about what Tennessee did on the baseball field this weekend, but I'm gonna leave it to him because
so just for reference on the scoring, Tennessee on Friday
don't
put
forget
up
to talk about what they did
Yeah.
weekend one. Like,
so weekend one, it was I can't kind of what everyone expected. They were playing Georgia Southern, so I think everyone kind of expected them to come in and just kind of beat up on a lesser team. They put up 33 runs over 3 days. They had production from pretty much everyone in the lineup. On all 3 days, 4 different players had 2 RBIs or more. The one that really stood out in week one was Jorel Ortega. He went 500 on the weekend and had at least 1 RBI in every game, and I think he had 3 in one game. And their pitching only allowed 13 hits with 26 strikeouts over the 3 games against Georgia Southern. And then rolling into week two, they just kind of continued, as most people probably know, against Iona, putting up, 27 runs in the first game, 29 in the second, and then run rolling them because they had to travel to New York.
Yeah, had to travel.
Yeah, I don't.
Had to.
I don't think I'm
having to-
buying that one. I don't know if I'm
due to
buying
having
the
to
travel.
Did they have a
travel.
game? Did they have a game on Monday?
No,
Iona?
it's-
I'm not
it's-
very
it's
well
Mardi
versed in
Gras,
the
they're out of
Iona
school.
Gales schedule. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't really know.
if the technical capabilities of this podcast were any higher, I would cue the Monty Python run away meme, because that's basically
Yeah,
what they
I'm
did.
surprised they didn't pull the COVID card at that game.
Yeah.
A couple players got COVID. Let's just cancel it.
So as most people know, the big story from that series was Trey Lipscomb hitting for the cycle on Friday, being a double shy on Saturday of the cycle, and then they pinch hit for him in the 5th of the 6th inning, and they pinch hit for four of their starters through the 5th and 6th, and then pulled the rest in the 7th, and their backup still managed to put up an extra 4 or 5 runs on Iona.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think one of the
I was watching the game today. It looked like batting practice out there.
It was like if we were to go play Tennessee,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But I think one of the bigger stories coming from that game is one of their catchers, Jared Dickey, coming in. He's got an 813 OPS on the season, the highest
Is he
OPS
related
on the
to
team.
RA?
Maybe
relation?
he might have been his bullpen catcher. He might be the second best bullpen catcher behind good old TJ over here.
Yep, number one here.
I think the big story is just the production up and down the lineup. They got guys hitting. Trey Lipscomb's hitting 577. They got Drew Gilbert hitting 476. Their lowest batting average is 214, and the next lowest is 333. Like they have a team average of or a team on base percentage of 534. So half of their hitters are getting on base so far, which is absolutely
That's
nuts.
crazy.
And not to be overshadowed is, I mean, I think they have great pitching. I mean, I might be biased here. You're throwing 104.
Yeah,
You're throwing
they got a guy,
104. That's not legal
and
in any state in America to drive.
and not just one pitch. He's doing it
Multiple
consistently.
times. He's consistently sitting 101, 102. That's MLB
Which
The
just
Show
isn't
type
fair.
stats.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're like feeding because Garrett Crochet, right? He's a Tennessee
Yeah,
alum.
Crochet.
Like
yeah.
they're just like
Yeah, for the White Sox.
Tennessee relievers.
Yeah,
Apparently,
they're pitching you right now, man. They developed.
they're
good
built
pitchers.
different. Yeah, so I would say Vandy's probably pitching you, but you have to give Tennessee credit because there are a lot of ranked teams that came out weekend one and didn't like dominate the, I'm going to say, inferior competition, right? Like you classify Mississippi State as one. That was like those were two ranked teams playing each other. But you had some teams come out like Arkansas. Like I'm Arkansas's quote unquote owner, and they dropped opening day against Illinois State. That was the first. And now, to be
I
fair,
immediately traded them.
to be fair, Sujas actually was using Arkansas on day one. That was their first opening day loss at home since 1981. Like they've come back and I think won every single game so far this season except for the game against Stanford today. But for me, Arkansas was a team that was coming into the season like extremely hyped about their offensive capabilities, and we haven't seen them so far. Like they've been playing kind of scrub teams so far, have put up 3, 4, 5 runs a game. I think their middle infield combo is one of the best in the country, but the bats aren't doing it right now, and the bats can find it. But as of now, my rankings, which we can talk about, they're barely in my top 10, barely. And, unless they show up, they can fall out of that. So I'll kick this to Sujas a little bit because I traded in this team, but Florida State
Nonetheless, Arkansas's got crazy competition too in the SEC.
They're playing the SEC. They're like, I would say the uncontested best conference in the league. Florida State's, to me, a team that is similar. Like they've won more dominantly, I would say, but they've also been like the bats have gone cold from here and there. Like they lost a game They lost a game to Jacksonville, I think, during the week, and this
today
weekend
against
series,
Stanford.
Like that.
And
like,
that's Stanford, not Stanford. Samford.
Yeah.
The Connecticut.
7-4 in extras.
So I mean, like Florida State, they, I know I said Texas has one of the best 1-2-3s in the country. Florida State's got one of the best 1-2s. I think Parker Messick, I think, is one of the Florida State pitchers who's just been unhittable so far this season. And again, so far is 2 starts, but Florida State, like when I think Florida State, I've always associated them with just dominant offense, and that's not the case right now. They're playing these inferior teams and not just dominating them. So going through kind of what the consensus top couple teams are, I think we can talk about a few really quickly. We talked
Can I
about
kick one off?
Vandy.
Can I kick one off?
Please.
I want to kick one off with my team, Ole Miss. They've been running through every team, and they just look dominant. They haven't lost a game this year. Their first 3 games, they scored 32 runs in 3 games. And, they just got the job done. They didn't struggle at all. So they've been really impressive pitching and hitting, too. So I really
it's been
like
pretty
to see
crazy. I've read a couple of the recaps of Ole Miss, and like I've been unable to find specific hitters and pitchers that stand out. Like they're just doing it as a team. And again, like we're in the early season, you're playing the not so great teams, but they're taking care of business in a dominant
Also to
fashion.
note,
So,
they have a 300-pound freshman defensive lineman hitting walk-off tanks today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got a pitcher. They got a pitcher named Derek Diamond, And he got the first dub for the Rebels of the season, so I thought that was pretty cool.
That man was born to play baseball.
Yeah.
So are we trying to go through top 25s right now? Is that?
I'm just trying to highlight a couple of other teams that stood out. I've talked a lot already. We should probably highlight Arizona. They've been a team that was consensus top 25, consensus really top 15, but they came out and I believe Eric, right? You're the owner of Arizona. Yeah, you can talk about them. They came out and really showed up the first weekend and haven't really let up yet.
Yeah, so in that first weekend, I didn't really get a chance to watch a lot of the Arizona games. I was kind of torn. I did get to watch that Sunday game against Texas Tech, and I was kind of torn.
And that was the big one.
Yeah, I was kind of torn because I obviously love Texas Tech, but I own Arizona, so I was a little bit torn. So I was happy to see Arizona pretty much make Texas Tech look like a JV baseball team in Globe Life.
Which is disappointing for Tech, too, because they're supposed to be a pretty good team this year.
Yeah, and I mean, they showed this weekend that they are, they can be that team in the Big 12. Arizona's another one of those teams that just kind of had production up and down the lineup. They're looking through. The reason I didn't highlight them in my overview was just because it was such a balanced team that just kind of like nothing really stood out. They just kind of did what they were supposed to do, went out, did what everybody kind of expected. Started off the season 3-0. They went into their weekday game, though, against Grand Canyon University. And
Yes, yeah.
Grand Canyon University just absolutely housed them 19-3. That was pretty upsetting to see, but luckily it was a weekday game, so it didn't matter to my my scoring potential because that would have been a pretty big hit. But they got 3 homers on 16 hits.
That would have set a record in terms of fantasy scoring in the negatives.
I don't know. Sujus's might be pretty hard to beat from week one.
Nope.
Oh, I think Duke today against Baylor losing 11-1, something like that. They had a negative 120 points.
Duke lost the series.
And they're supposed to be a pretty solid team too in the top 25.
So here's the thing with Duke, and I'm saying this as an ACC man. I went to school at ACC school. Duke, to me, is like, and Notre Dame can also, in my opinion, qualify a little bit for this. They're like the Texas of the ACC. Like, Texas is always overranked in football. And then they come out and then, they were top 10, top 15, and then within 2 games, they're gone. Notre Dame, I guess, maybe more in football, but like for the last 5 years, Duke has been consistently like ranked in baseball and football, and they've never done anything with it. Like, I'm gonna leave the basketball question alone, but when you, to be honest, like when I saw you pick Duke, I was like, it
was bold. I think we all said it was bold.
Yeah,
when he
I actually most of those picks were bold.
Yeah,
I sat Baylor this week because they're playing Duke, and I probably would put up 600 points on Travis this week if I'd have played Baylor.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous because Duke, like, they dropped their series against, no, not Maryland. Baylor was playing Maryland. Who did they play opening weekend, Sujas, that they lost to? They played Baylor, right?
No, Maryland played Baylor.
Baylor was this weekend. Maryland and Baylor was week 1. And
it
Maryland
was like William
them.
and Mary or something.
Yeah, Duke lost, or like Virginia Military Institution or something. Like,
VMI
Duke dropped the first series. Duke's dropped the second series against Baylor. Like, they can't possibly stay in the top 25 after this week.
My big one, I don't know if you guys...
Can you talk about Oregon State a little bit, Benji?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go into.
Perfect, yeah.
So, Oregon State, I'm putting in my top 10. I think they're 14 right now. Either 13 or 14.
What's the score of that game?
Rankings will come out tomorrow morning.
They're actually, the Oklahoma State is who you're talking about, Jowers. Jowers, your game is 6-2, bottom of the ninth. You got 1 on with no outs, so we're still holding steady. So no matter what, beat you. But
yeah, because we got an upset alert brewing over here with Penn and A&M, so. That's not.
Oh my God!
It's bases loaded, 1 out.
It's like Harvard beating Miami.
It's bases loaded, 1 out.
How does it make you feel, Brennan?
Hey, like I said, I'm not smart enough to go to Harvard, but I knew that was a fluke.
My main focus for Oregon State is they got a sophomore pitcher named Cooper Jerpy. I think it's Jerpy. It starts with an H. But he's 2-0 with a .82 ERA through 11 innings pitched with 17 Ks. His first 2 outings have been very solid. I'm interested to see how he turns out this year, especially being a sophomore and being so dominant so far this season. I mean, they're 7-0 right now. Oregon State is. Their first 3 games were 21-1, 13-5, 9-5, and then they went 13-3, 13-3, 9-0, and 5-4. So they've been pretty dominant, and their pitching has been dominant as well.
In my mind, I group them with the Tennessees and the Ole Misses of college baseball so far, in that, yes, you're playing the inferior opponents, but you're taking care of business on a dominant scale, and they've continued that for the first 2 weeks of baseball.
It's not just one specific person on their team either. Like, going through my days of like who's performing well, my list changes every game of who is performing. Like this Thursday, we had Jacob Melton go 3 for 4 with 6 RBIs. He had 2 homers that game. And then the day before that, you had Travis Bazana, 1 run, 1 RBI, and 2 walks. The game that really impressed me the most, though, was their plate discipline has been phenomenal. They had 12 total walks in their opening day, where they won 21-1. But Garrett Forrester had 5 walks and 7 at-bats that game. Their plate discipline has been one thing that has been really, really driving their wins, because they're drawing a lot of walks.
I think it goes to show, I think something that stood out to me was that they're playing inferior teams. I feel like there's no inferior teams, as you can tell through these past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
you can't
absolutely.
go into any week lightly. I mean,
I appreciate baseball. You saying that. Exactly.
It's
right?
baseball. You can't.
I shouldn't say that, so I should be more careful about my
Ron
word
Washington.
choice.
Say the Ron Washington quote, Travis. Let's hear it.
I'm not going to do that. But no, so that is baseball. Like, any given team can win any day, and it makes you give more credit to teams like Tennessee and Ole Miss for taking care of business in Oregon State. I'd actually, Benji, if you want to quickly hit on Notre Dame, because that's another team I group. Like, I have my reservations about Notre Dame a little bit, but the games that they have won have been pretty much like straight domination.
Yeah, I mean their games have been. I mean, I messed up this weekend by not playing them the day they won 16-2.
Thank you for keeping it close.
Really messed up that one. I would have been blowing out Jowers, but their record overall has been decent. I think they're 5-1 right now. They lost a game during the week this week, but overall, I mean, they're again another team where they're not having specific standouts hitting wise. They have a senior pitcher that's doing really good. He's also 2-0. He's got a .69 ERA through 13 innings with 19 Ks.
Nice.
He's doing phenomenal as well. But I think they're another team where it's just overall it's a team effort, not just one individual that's performing. Each day is a different person that's outperforming the other.
And that's what's scary about those teams. It's not. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking down on NC State, but you've got clear guys who are talks of the town. But with other teams like Notre Dame and that, you can't find a guy who's just standing out. They're just doing it all as a team.
And that's like Tennessee, man. Like, Tennessee's a perfect example. Like Eric has, all of his team is performing. It's not just one person. It's the whole team that's performing. And I didn't get super in depth with that like he did. I had a lot of schoolwork, sadly, but I definitely will be looking into like the overall team performances now, just seeing what I've noticed over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Just to say, like, I think NC State, like, the headlines are being dominated by Tommy White, but like, I think his name is JT and his last name starts with a B, and I can't remember his last name. But they have other dudes that are also showing up. Like, you don't score 12, 14, 20 runs a game, and Tommy White's driving in all of those. Like, like Tommy Taters is mashing. He's mashing some taters. But they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. Yeah, go ahead.
Wright State is Oklahoma State's now down 5-6 with 1 out. So it's a pretty big, interesting game, just so you guys know.
Yeah,
So,
just to finish
ninth too. So
that thought on NC State, like they're clearly playing. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the situation that happened in the College World Series last year.
Oh yeah, that. I forgot
Yeah.
all about
So-
that.
Yeah, I was a huge NC State guy last year.
I forgot
Yeah,
all
so
about
just-
that.
For any listeners that aren't aware, in the College World Series last year, NC State was like playing hot. They were on a roll, and they essentially got bounced. They got forced to leave the tournament as a result of some of the COVID protocols. So they came out this season and have continued it just red hot. So I would say I would classify NC State like just because Tommy White he's dominating and rightfully
Right.
so. I think they're still an overall like very very whole like together team.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they go coming into these later months.
I've got a couple of teams to highlight because they're significant on the national scale. So after I do one, just somebody butt in if they have something that I've forgotten. I have to give my alma mater a shout out first for Georgia Tech.
G-Tech.
They've come out and proved, I think, to everyone that they have one of the most electric offenses in the league. Like they may not be putting up the same runs as like a Tennessee, which again I think Iona maybe should shut the baseball program down after that. But if Georgia Tech came out and walked off on opening day, Chance Huff has dealt twice in a row now. A little left-handed pitcher. First start 9 Ks, second start 9 Ks again. They have a switch hitting third baseman that Saturday, the first weekend, hit two dingers, one from each side of the plate. Like that's the kind of stuff
That's hot.
That's the kind of stuff you love to see in college baseball. The shortstop Chandler Simpson, he's on fire right now. Had a bases clearing triple in the first weekend of the series. Had a grand slam this last weekend on Friday, so he's kind of leading the way. And all I gotta say is catcher you. Home that Jason Varitek has caught the largest number of no-hitters in Major League history. You can go fact check that. Joey Bart, number 2 overall pick, 2016, I want to say. And now the latest installment is Kevin Perrotta. All this man has done, he started cold a little bit the first weekend of the season. Midweek, he hits 2 home runs in the first game, goes 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs and a home run in the second game. And this weekend, they played a doubleheader on Saturday. On Saturday, he went 7 for 8 with 2 home runs and 10 RBIs. So this man's like
putting up video
numbers
game numbers.
Video game numbers.
Yeah.
And like there are some people, again, that are doing it more. Lincecum from Tennessee, he's, I would say, like aside from Tommy White, one of the biggest standouts to me. I had concerns about the Georgia Tech pitching after the first series because they were playing Wright State and gave up like 6-9 runs every game, and they're just putting up enough runs to beat them. But this weekend they came out a little bit better. Chance Huff had another good outing. Let me see here. I know.
So you're saying they need to give you a call?
No, my
fifth year back.
You just had your rotator cuff done. Mine, I can't.
Well, hey, I know a guy that can fix it.
Yeah, I know a guy.
Yeah, his name
I know a
is-
guy who knows a guy.
But yeah, Zach Maxwell came out.
So,
He's
Travis,
throwing
would you have
98.
them in your top 20?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
them in
yeah,
my
I
top
think
10.
that's
Yeah,
hands down.
they're
Yeah,
consensus 15.
Yeah,
easy.
they're at number 9 for
Yeah.
me.
And again, right, like I'll pivot off them. Zach Maxwell struck out 11 hitters in 6 innings, tossing 98-mile-an-hour BB fastballs. Like his first weekend, he walked a shitload of people and got into a lot of trouble. But this weekend, he put it together. And again, this is it's Gardner Webb, so you want to see it against ACC competition.
Florida State.
but-
yeah.
But that was really encouraging to see that they put up a much better pitching performance this week. So. I want to cover Florida and Stanford before we move on to our rankings discussion. But is anybody else? I'm looking at like kind of top 25 teams.
Yeah, so I can't. I'm not going to let you butt in here. I can't go this long without talking about the LSU Tigers.
Oh, jeez.
Tiger Town.
I mean,
That was a little bit of oversight on my opinion.
they are averaging over 12 runs a game. everyone on their
They're playing little league teams though.
All right, man.
Louisiana Tech.
It doesn't matter. You said there are no little league teams, right? Except Iona.
I did.
They're not even in the little league, man.
So the only two people on their team batting under 300 are their two catchers. Everyone else is doing superb. I mean, they have 12 home runs on the year. I mean, they're absolutely outstanding. I do want to highlight Blake Money. He's not one of the flashiest pitchers around. Lives on the outside edge. 2 games, 14 innings, 17 strikeouts, no run runs, 1 hit. Sure, they're playing Towson. Sure, they're playing Maine. But I mean, they're still producing like they wouldn't have last year. Last year, I think they would have won all these games 6-2, 4-3, stuff like that. I think with Jay Johnson coming in this year, I think they're going to be astronomically better. And I do want to highlight Braden Jobert, 4 home runs. I was at the game today, and I was sitting with my fiance, and she was like, "Why are you trying to video everything? Get off your phone. Let's watch the game." So I did. And I was like,
that ball got out in a hurry.
I was like, I'm going to video this right now. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay off my phone. Boom, dinger over the right field wall.
That ball left in about a second and a half, too.
Oh, and who was it? Was it Dylan Cruz? I think it was Dylan Cruz. 109 mile an hour pitch off the bat. 100 mile an hour off the bat. I mean,
I was about to say, you said pitch.
Yeah. But that was
I'm not standing in that.
Absolute.
I got concerned for his ligaments in his elbow.
Yeah, but I think they'll do great things next week in the Shriners Classic, and I'll get into a little bit more of that next week.
Yeah, actually, that's awesome if you have some material prep there, because it's always a big one. Eric, I think you had a team to just cover quickly.
Yeah, just one real quick.
Yeah,
Virginia is definitely a team. They put up a series high 60 runs, which is the most in school history for one series, and they did it on 48 hits because they amassed 32 walks throughout the series, 17 of them coming in a 24-9 win on Friday, which just shows kind of like that discipline up and down the lineup, as Benji was talking about, or in Oregon State. And also, there wasn't just Trey Lipscomb's cycle that happened this weekend. Jake Geloff up in Virginia hit for the cycle, going 7 for 8 over 3 games with 3 home runs, a triple and 2 doubles with 13 RBIs. So,
who are they lined up against? Who'd they play that week?
They played Cornell this weekend, so
and
pretty similar competition to Iona.
It was pretty interesting because my notes on Virginia coming out of weekend 1 was that they pitched really, really well, but their bats didn't make a huge deal of noise, and so I wanted to see the offense come alive. And the inverse happened this weekend. Like, they were giving up a decent number of runs per game, but they were scoring, as you said, a school record. And it's easy, I think, sometimes to discount. Sometimes when I watch college games, you see a pitcher get on the bump, and you're like, dude, this guy's nowhere near the zone. He can't find it. How are you not just walking every at bat? But you have teams like Texas, right? That maybe the plate discipline's lacking a little bit, and they're swinging at pitches at their head. So, just more credit to Virginia for any team that has that plate approach, because it's one thing to say this pitcher's all over the zone, but credit to them for actually converting that to walks.
17 walks in one game is kind of unheard of.
Yeah, I did miss one statistic from LSU. They are the most hit.
Nothing turns me on like a good statistic.
Yeah.
Except for my fiance, which is on my bio.
They are the most hit by pitch team. Teams.
I noticed that today.
Teams
they were getting hit
LSU.
left and right.
They were at 15 through last weekend. They were at
LSU's very hateable.
I want to say 26 or 27 after facing Towson and Southern this week. I mean, it's disgusting. They also have 20 walks. They're not facing astronomical pitching, but just the amount of times they've been hit is disgusting.
If they'll give you first for free, take it.
That's right, yeah.
I do have one player that probably nobody's even heard of for Virginia Tech, because they're not even ranked. But they're actually 6-0. They haven't played big name schools, but you got a kid named Jack Hurley. He's a sophomore. He's just getting on base. He's got 14 for 22. He's been 636 on the season so far. 8 of those hits, though, are extra base hits with 3 homers. He went 3 for 3 the other day with 2 doubles and a homer and a walk. So the man's just getting on base every game. But that's just a name to kind of like
Watch out for.
Tommy White's just kind of Tommy White's just covering all the news right now, But like guys like that are going to be like standing out if he keeps it up, which I think he will based off of the last few games. That's just a name to kind of keep your eye out for.
Yeah, I'll hit on stay in the Virginias, actually. West Virginia, I think, might crack some people's top 25s coming up this next poll, because they have, I think, lost 1 game in total. Actually, 2. They lost 1 to Charlotte this week, which some people had in their top like 30, 40, and 1 game to Coastal Carolina. Otherwise, they've won. They have a bomb-dropping corner infield, J.J. Weatherholt and Grant Hussey. I hope I'm saying Hussey. Hopefully it's not actually. We'll see.
Not getting invited to my wedding.
And they're dropping bombs. This weekend they won on a walk-off suicide squeeze on Friday. So they're making moves. I'll quickly touch on Florida because, again, I've had a big fandom for Florida growing up, and I was really hyped to watch them opening weekend. And then opening day, they came out like strong. The lefty Hunter Barco is looking electric for Florida. Start number 1, 11 strikeouts and 1 hit in 6 innings. Start number 2, 12 strikeouts in 5 innings. So he's like early season SEC Pitcher of the Year candidate. And again, opening day, Sterling Thompson came out and dropped 2 nukes, one of them being a grand slam, and they dominated Liberty. Then they came out and dropped the series to Liberty. Like, if you're Florida, you can't be doing that. So they had a strong midweek, and they had a strong showing. I think they swept Georgia Southern or Georgia State, one of the two, this week. It's just, you want to see more after dropping like opening series to Liberty. And all credit to Liberty. But yeah, they've had Jonathan Langford. He's hit 2 home runs in back-to-back games. They had the pitching is there, the talent is there. They should put together, especially in the SEC, right? Such a tough conference.
Can I touch base on my Sooners?
Yeah, please. Tell us what the Sooners
Let's touch base on the Sooners.
It's no LSU here, okay?
All right, so they're out the top 25. All right, okay.
Yeah,
maybe they can work their way in later in the year. But right now they're just showing, they're just a mediocre baseball team. But in that early series, they did come out and beat Auburn 3-0. And then on Sunday they came out and beat Michigan.
I'd clap.
So they beat Auburn and Michigan. They went 2-1 in that series. All right, they got throttled by Arizona, but Arizona's elite, and Oklahoma's just not elite right now. But I do want to shout out one player for Oklahoma.
Thank you for that update, CJ.
Yeah, they might become elite.
Just as you can listeners.
Let me shout out one player.
Top level analysis right here. Oklahoma is not elite.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's great. We get it.
Jake Bennett, starting pitcher, Oklahoma. 2 games, 0 earned runs, 11.1 innings. So that's pretty impressive. But the only thing is, okay, that game against Northwestern State, they lost the game. But Jake Bennett pitched 6.1 innings, shutout innings, and they lost the game. So that falls on their bats, and that's why they're just a mediocre team right now.
Northwestern State out of Louisiana?
Or Northwestern.
Because if it's Northwestern State,
he said I don't know. Look it up.
We are the look it up.
Yeah, because if it's the team out of Louisiana, I think
are
you
they
should
D2,
keep that stat to
D3?
yourself. No, but I knew a guy that was. Go ahead.
To your credit, every state in the country does have a Northwestern region, so it could very well be from any state. Like it could be Wyoming Northwestern State.
It's the Northwestern Little League.
Well, while you look that up, I'll quickly touch on Stanford because they, in my opinion, have one of the most exciting players to watch right now. Opening week. Oh, please! I think you found the Google result there.
So yeah, it is the team from Louisiana.
The Devils or whatever, the Demons.
Yeah. I know a guy that was about 5'2" that started third base there. I wouldn't really brag about all that. I mean, they scored they scored 6 runs against that team.
Dude, just off of their first off, I'm going off their color coordination basis. They're what, purple and orange? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
No, that's a no from me.
Yeah, keep those stats to yourself.
Yeah, this is a Oklahoma slander podcast.
No. I was shouting out Jake Bennett for throwing 0 earned runs, not the team.
Fair. Okay,
Elite.
so quickly, if anybody has a team after this, make sure you chime in, because otherwise I think we can really segue. And just, for the listeners again, like there are other teams that aren't as, I'm just going to say, nationally relevant when we talk about top 25 teams. For example, like I also own Iowa and Kansas and Arizona State. But because we're covering 2 weeks of baseball, I know, we'll spend a little bit less time on teams like this, but in the future you can expect more analysis on these teams if they're some of your favorite ones and they're making moves. Like West Virginia was unranked coming into the season. I think they're making moves. But anyway, Stanford, so they came into the season ranked consistently number 5 or 6 in all the polls, and opening weekend, I pretty much lost because of Stanford. Like they dropped a game to Cal State Fullerton 11-1.
Minus 220.
With the scoring system we've set up, because it rewards or multiplies higher ranked teams losing against lesser teams or lower ranked teams, that really really set me back in a major way. But when I look at that game, I think it was just a bullpen issue. Like their starting pitcher gave up like 4 earned runs, and then they brought in a couple of bullpen arms that gave up 6 earned runs in 1 inning. 2 different guys. The first guy didn't even he lasted 1 out. So when I throw out that game, in my assessment of Stanford, they have some of the best pitching in the league. Like consistently 0 runs, 1 run, 0 runs, like pitching on an elite level. And the one player that I want to highlight, Friday night opening day against Cal State Fullerton, 1-0 victory for Stanford. The save goes to Braden Montgomery. Saturday, they get blown out 11-0. So again, I talked about that. I'm going to move over a little bit. Sunday, they came out and repaid the favor, 11-1. And one of the Stanford hitters had 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. That was none other than Braden Montgomery. This dude is a true freshman, was a top 25 perfect game recruit in the nation from Mississippi, and is coming out and just like dominating so far. Unfortunately, the Arkansas game that Stanford had got canceled this weekend, but like in the middle of the week, he also had another save and is K'ing up. Like he's throwing 94, 95, and then just swatting dingers at the plate. Like I can't say enough. Like people need to be watching this kid. That's all to say about Stanford. I was a little concerned about them after they got blown out 11-1, but they've really, really raised my confidence level. I still have them in my top 5 teams, I think, in the nation. Unlike Arkansas, like when Arkansas played Stanford this weekend, and I was too scared in our fantasy league to play either of them because I didn't want to lose big points. I would have picked Stanford because Arkansas has given me no confidence in their offensive ability, but Stanford has pitched on an elite level. Ironically, I think Stanford won 5-0, so I would have been right, but it wouldn't have been able to recuperate the number of points I lost at the hands of Tennessee. So, okay, I know we all have more teams that we own that are not on the national relevant scale as of yet. Are there any other players or teams you want to highlight before we move into conversation about how we think rankings should be evaluated moving forward for this next week?
Wichita State needs to just drop to probably 120th if that's a ranking. That's for sure.
Same with East Carolina.
Oh my gosh, how have we not talked about East Carolina, guys?
Can we talk about their second game against Bryant?
I think we should talk about Bryant instead of ECU.
Yeah.
We should be talking about all 8 ECU games so far.
Bryant's a top 15
their
team.
first game against Bryant, they lost 10-2, get blown out. And then Travis, do you want to elaborate on the second game? What happened there at the end?
Yeah, so If you haven't seen this on Twitter, it's absolutely ridiculous. So Bryant again dominated game 1. East Carolina preseason ranked number 12, like the clear-cut favorite in the American Athletic Conference, and expected to be like in contention for maybe a super regional seed. They make a comeback. They get down again to Bryant and come back to bring it to, I believe, 8-8 heading into the 9th inning. And East Carolina is batting in the bottom of the 9th inning. And this dude, I think I had the name written down on a different page, like Maxwell or something like that, launches a ball.
Ding dong.
Just
A missile.
No doubter.
No doubt.
Everybody goes
Walk
nuts. I mean, they're screaming. They're going nuts.
A walk-off shot, and this dude's running the bases, only to see the umpires gather together for a conference, and they call it off. Like, they say that the first baseman for Bryant somehow called time.
It wasn't that. They went back and talked about it. The first base umpire called time on his own because he said he couldn't see. Like, he couldn't see anything.
So the first baseman
so
didn't call time?
No, the first base umpire called time on his own because he couldn't see anything.
But so he couldn't. Well, how could he?
I don't know. I don't know.
If you look at the replay, the
sun
ball's
is
mid-air, and then the ump raises his hands.
No. It was called time. It was called time, but I think they came out and said that he couldn't see. I saw it on a video surfacing somewhere. I'll try to find it and send it. But yeah,
if you can, we should retweet it because I heard another podcast say like the first baseman called time, and that's again, as a lefty, if I wasn't pitching, I only ever played first base, and like no first baseman in the history of baseball has ever called time.
Yeah,
before a pitch.
Like,
yeah,
it's just dumb funny. I think the only thing that would have made that even funnier is if they celebrated more at the plate, dumped water on him, tore off his jersey, all that type of stuff.
It would have been very hilarious to see him
to
take
go back up there.
Take another at bat,
Yeah,
just
but
a soaking a red stained jersey.
That was insanely wild. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen
and that's
a
just
home
the
run
start.
called off.
That's just the second game for them.
So let's
After
just
that,
finish the story here, and then Sue can take us down the wonderful road that's been ECU's season so far. But they called the home run off. ECU fails to walk the game off in the 9th inning, and promptly, as the universe would have it, Bryant scores 2 runs in the top of the 10th. ECU is able to get 1 back in the bottom of the 10th, but then they lose. Like, they have a walk-off home run called off, and then they drop that one en route to getting swept by Bryant,
who's now ranked number 24.
That third game, they lost 4-3. They were right there, and Bryant beat them. And they can't even beat North Carolina once.
Yeah, my North Carolina boys.
They're struggling.
What happened in that series?
ECU's winning right now, though.
North Carolina took 2 of 3. They lost today.
Is it over?
Yeah,
ECU got a win?
I'm pretty sure it's over. I'm pretty sure that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They didn't call time.
I just watched ECU hit an absolute fucking piss rocket to right field.
Maybe they'll get back on track.
Right before it, landed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
North Carolina's down 5-0. So
ECU was like the clear-cut number 1 team in that conference too.
Yeah, but
so maybe they might get back on track.
Now it's Tulane UCF, proudly owned by me.
And it's
I apologize to our listeners for taking that long to cover ECU. Let's see here. Anybody got anything else? And then we can move into rankings. Actually,
the Oklahoma State
apologize.
game is in the top of the 10th right now.
Oh, against.
So
they tied it up. They tied it up.
They won earlier today, 26-3 versus Wright State, and they're in the top of the 10th, tied 6-6 right now. They're the same players, man.
Other series that I've moments in college baseball so far. Opening weekend. I don't know if you guys saw this. Connor Davis is a player for Arizona State that missed the last 2 years, missed 2019 with a knee injury and then 2020 with the COVID season. I think 2021 is when he had the knee injury. He came back, his debut, he hits a leadoff home run for Arizona State. So really, really awesome to see when a player that takes off for that long is able to pick things right back up. And then I know a couple of my teams have been winning like lower ranked games. Do you want to get into like who we have for rankings?
Yeah,
I really am
let's do these
interested to hear.
rankings. I only went to 10. I didn't know if we were going all the way to 25. So
Yeah.
That's fine. So for everybody, now that we've got our first episode out, we're going to be posting our links to our website that contains all of our fantasy content, as well as each 6 of our rankings that go up the top 25. But at least for the conversation for today, we're going to keep it to top 10. And I think the best way to do this is we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can talk about why people think that teams belong either higher or lower. So for number 1, I've got Texas. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
I have
Oh,
Texas.
okay. Eric's
Yep,
got something different.
I got Texas.
Before we move on to the dissenting opinion, I'll state my case and I'll let TJ as the owner state his. I've yet to see. I think they showed some weakness this weekend against Alabama and again against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. But they're undefeated so far. I've yet to see anything, especially pitching, that makes me depart from the number 1 ranking that they carried into the season so far. TJ, what about you?
I'll agree. I think the start has been rocky. I mean, they're undefeated, but obviously not as dominant performance as Tennessee versus Iona. But I think their pitching is just it's unstoppable at this point. I know it's early.
The last thing I'll say for Texas though, right? Like Tennessee versus Iona, like Iona's Iona. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Like Rice
is a baseball school. I mean,
Rice has always been a college baseball powerhouse. Like Alabama is an SEC school. They're not in the top of the SEC, but they're an SEC school. So I give a little bit of credit to Texas, at least for the opponents they're playing. But okay, Eric, who do you have in the number 1 slot?
So I didn't put Texas number 1 because it's part of just a pure hatred for the Longhorns. But
the Tech fan, the Red Raider.
Yeah. My favorite Texas sports moment is the 2009 Texas game. But I
Michael
think
Crabtree.
I think that number 1 spot should be a team that's well-rounded in every aspect as far as pitching and hitting goes. And as we've stated previously in the podcast, like Texas just doesn't have those bats to carry with the pitching, and I just don't think that's deserving of a number 1 spot. Yeah, well, so far, but I think
you put
teams
up there?
Tennessee's my number 1.
I have Tennessee as number 1 as well.
They've only given up, I think, 7 runs so far. So like they might not have the 1, 2, 3 of Texas, but they clearly have dominant pitching.
So I will say this: I think if you were to rank teams, like taking their names and preseason rankings out of the equation, and purely ranking teams like on their statistical performances and win-loss record and the run differential for the season, I don't think an argument can be made against Tennessee. Right? They're dominating people. I think there is something to be said for quality of opponent, but I don't fault you, for picking Tennessee at that number 1 slot. Like they're getting it done.
Even with quality of opponent, they're still showing that they still have the ability to, like, no offense to Iona again, but like literally destroy the opponent if they are at that level. So,
right. Yeah, and you have to give credit. Like anybody can win a baseball game on a given day, and to beat one 27-1 or whatever it was is ridiculous.
Just a football
so
score, almost.
Yeah, I can see it. I'm not gonna argue with that one. I think there's definitely a viable case to be made there. Anybody else have Texas or Tennessee, or a different number 1 slot?
No, I have Texas 1. Tennessee is going to be my 2.
Yeah, I had Tennessee at 3. So for my number 2, I have NC State there. They've vaulted from me, and I don't think they've shown like the dominant pitching that a team like Texas or even Tennessee has, but the offensive onslaught compared and also combined with like the chip on the shoulder they're playing with that we mentioned, and finally what I saw this weekend when they got down early 6-0 to Quinnipiac and came back,
That was nerve-wracking.
that was really impressive to me. Like, are they a top 25 school? No, but they did it. They came back and they won and they dominated. So who else people have in their number 2 slots?
I got NC State.
That's where I have Texas at.
Okay, so you had Tennessee, Texas. Eric, could you have yours your number 2?
Ole Miss.
Okay, Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I think I
might have the
my 2
most.
as well. They just seem like the dominant team in the SEC right now. I mean, along with Tennessee, granted. But I think when the competition comes with the SEC, I think Ole Miss can overpower Tennessee in that aspect.
What's the lowest anybody has Ole Miss? I have them at 4.
Yeah, I have them.
5.
I have them at 4.
I have 5.
Okay, so consensus top 5.
Top 5,
for
yeah.
us for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3 is where I had Tennessee.
That's
so
where I had
again,
Tennessee.
really,
I had Oklahoma State at that spot.
I got them at 4, especially with their performance right now.
I think they're definitely a top 5, talk.
I think they're going to handle the Big 12.
That's not saying much.
am I just like y'all keep talking about OK State? I thought I saw some whack ass results. Like I have them down to my like 18.
Jeez.
No, granted, I made this before the second game today.
They had one loss. They had one loss for Sam Houston last week, or during the week on Tuesday, but their other loss was versus Vandy. That's it.
And I think their competition too, once they get into conference play, I mean, it's pretty light. Besides Texas, I mean, you got Tech too, but it's not as harsh as the SEC when they're going to start beating up on each other.
I'm gonna chime in here real quick. Another potential upset alert again with A&M and Penn. Top 9, 1 out. Penn's up to bat. Runners on first and second.
That's what I like to see. I hope Texas A&M becomes Iona.
Yes.
They just canceled their program.
I think I
As a
overreacted
Sooner,
a
I
little
agree.
bit on OK State because I knew they lost against Sam Houston, and that was like so shocking for me after coming in and winning 2 of 3 against Vanderbilt. I think I saw that they were losing the start of that game against Wright State, so maybe I need to walk that back a little bit.
I mean,
got
they won 26-3 earlier, and they're 6-6, bottom of the 10th now. I mean, they're hit or miss right now, which is
That's the thing, though. Like they came in against Vanderbilt, and this is why I dropped Vanderbilt down a little bit in my rankings. Like
yeah.
for OK
I put
State to
them
come
at
in,
8.
win 2 of 3, and then lose against Sam Houston, almost lose against Wright. Like even if they win, credit to them for having the clutch like victory. But should you be going into extra innings against Wright State? No. If you're a top 4 team in the nation. So okay, so I think all of us will move to 5, and then we'll make sure if there's any teams outside like top 5 for all of us. I've got Vandy in my number 5 slot, and they lost 2 of 3 to OK State, but they've come out and dominated with pitching. Their in-week schedule, like I don't think they've lost a game since. I'm a firm believer that pitching can carry you and the bats can follow. So I probably am a little bit higher on them maybe than most of y'all. But so we've got consensus top 5 are Texas, NC State, Tennessee, Ole Miss. Who else have you got in the top 5?
Arkansas.
Go
I have NC
Hokies.
State at 10.
You have NC State where?
At 10.
I think that's
well.
so
insane.
hold on. So
I agree with a lot of you guys' points by far, but I don't see them putting up as many. It's not. I think in
As
overall
many runs?
consistent- No, I'm not saying as many runs. I'm saying as consistent as other teams are when it's not just one person. You know, I'm viewing it as an overall team aspect, and
Right. If he hits
that's
a
just where I
cold
put
streak
them.
or if he's in a slump. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. That's why NC State didn't even make my top 10.
Y'all are wild. So I have LSU at 5. No bias at all.
6.
I mean,
Giles, you're looking rough. What's wrong, buddy?
so I
Penn,
mean,
Penn could have just won that game.
Yeah, their only loss is a midweek game in the freezing cold rain up at LA Tech. They didn't start their normal midweek starter, Helmers. They had some big country boy up there, and he just got hit around. So I'm going to leave them at 5 just because of the volume of runs that they're scoring, and they honestly aren't giving up that many runs. They've given up, I think, 6 and 11 was their two highs, or 8 and 11.
I think it's safe to say they're definitely top 10 contention for sure.
Yeah, I think the slept-on team here is Virginia. I have them at 5.
Let's talk about Virginia in a sec. All I'll say for LSU is I watched a little bit of that Maine series, and those dudes were like doing everything but kicking the ball around for.
They were
now
kicking the
again,
ball around too.
Yeah, so like I don't know, it's tough for me to credit that much. And again, I know we're talking about like Tennessee, and like, hey, credit to you guys for putting up 27 runs. So I don't want to discredit LSU. For sure, top 10, no doubt. For me, it's a little bit early to do top 5. And lastly, like I'll let you guys talk about Virginia. All I'll say for NC State, remember the player I referenced, JT? It's JT Jarrett. You want to know who leads NC State in batting average? Not Tommy White. It's JT Jarrett. He's hitting 591. He's hitting 591 with an 864 slugging. So, it's not just Tommy White. And by all signs, like, he's never going to cool down. But, like, NC State, I think, Trevin, you talked about some of the team stats. Like, they've got, like, in order their batting averages. I'm actually going to go to, wow, NC State doesn't publish OPS. But
Yeah, I couldn't find anything on it.
JT Jarrett, 591. LeJames Groover, 459. Josh Hood, 364. Devontae Brown, 361. So again, playing the lower tier competition, but they're doing it as a team. Tommy White's ripping the cover off the ball, but they're doing it as a team. Okay, for Virginia at number 5, I think that is.
Who said that?
I think that's Eric did.
That's my number 5.
I think that's way
It's an Eric choice.
Valued.
Let's see his thoughts. Let's hear him out.
Yeah.
I mean, so they came out cold against Bellarmine. Only won 1-0. But then throughout the weekend,
Wait, who did you say they played?
Bellarmine.
A team that Kentucky thrashed.
Where is Bellarmine located?
In Kentucky.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
They have about 14 people at that school.
They're in Louisiana, probably.
Through 3 games in opening weekend, they only gave up 3 runs to NJIT, who isn't a top national team, but it's definitely, I think, respected among college baseball.
I would compare them with like Arizona and Oregon State too. I mean, I do think that they could possibly be elite, but I'd kind of put them up there with them too.
I would put them with like Liberty and Tech.
Listen,
I mean, it's a week 2 ranking, so I may eat my words on this, but we'll see.
Which is fine, right? We're talking opinions. It's just, I think Virginia pitched really well the first series. They hit really well the second series. I want to see it all together. I've got Virginia at 17. So, like, top 25. Let's focus on the top. Does anybody else have them in their top 10?
No.
I have them at 8.
Nope.
8, okay. So Benji's got them in their number 8. So I mean, clearly they've been playing well. My opinion is that 5 is a little high. Okay, so we covered Texas, NC State, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Virginia, LSU. Any other people in their top 5? Because I had Vandy.
I got
surprised Mississippi State.
I put Ole Miss
They're supposed to.
at 5.
Ole Miss, yeah, we talked about Ole Miss.
And I put Arizona at 4. And do I have
Arizona at 4?
Do I have a reason for that? I do not have any logical reason for that. No.
I put them at 10 because I just didn't know where to put them, but they deserve to be in the top 10.
Wow, everybody's having them over Stanford?
Okay. Here's my thing. I've got, and I'll talk about Arizona here for a sec. I've got Vandy as 5, Stanford is 6, Arizona at 7, and Arizona showed up at a neutral site tournament. They won 3 games and dominated Texas Tech. Just dominated them. And then in their weekend series, they won 2 games back-to-back 9-1. So they're showing up consistently, winning both sides of the ball. I think Arizona can threaten for sure. So I've got them at 7, I said. I do have Stanford ranked above them, though. And, I've already kind of given my opinion. Like, Stanford's been excelling on both sides of the ball. And if you exclude that 11-1 blowout loss to Cal State Fullerton, which, again, Cal State Fullerton is not a college baseball slouch. Like, again, a storied college baseball program. They're really killing it. And they beat Arkansas 5-0. So, I know Benji, you said you had Arkansas at 5 or 6. Again, I'm the owner of Arkansas, and I have concerns about their hitting against elite pitching so far. So I to be honest, I got Arkansas at 10. They're barely cracking top 10 for me, and I own them.
In the preseason poll, they had them ranked at like 3 and 4.
Yeah, they had them
2,
as
3,
high
and
as
4.
1. I think I want to say Perfect Game might have had them at 1.
Yeah, so they
But,
had high expectations.
Yeah, so I just need to see it. They haven't really shown it so far. Okay.
Oklahoma State
So we've-
won, by the way.
Oh wow!
7 to 6.
Penn
They came back
is now
4-run
beating
ninth to
A&M.
win.
Penn's beating
Love to
A&M
see it.
7-5,
Sorry,
with-
Travis.
and pouring
That's okay.
more runs on.
So we covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order. Let's do this. Let's cover 10 to 6 in reverse order, like 10 to 6 up, and give a first team out of the top 10. Eric, you go first. Actually, Brennan, you go first. You haven't talked a little bit.
So my first team out is gonna be Georgia Tech. I have them at 11.
That's fine, actually.
Yeah, I have them at 11, but I also have TCU at 12. I just want to see. I want to see more runs from Georgia Tech. I want to see a lot more runs. I like Georgia.
I've seen all the runs I need from Georgia Tech. I need to see more pitching.
Yeah, I like Georgia Tech a lot. I've always liked their football team because they suck real bad. That's my first team out of the top 10. But I think they could be. I think they could crack it, if not stay top 15.
All right, so hit us. Let's go ahead and you lead your 10 through 5, and then the next person, we'll just let them like critique that, and then we'll just do that ad nauseum. So hit us with your top 5, 10 through 5.
All right, so I got Arizona at 10, Stanford 9, Arkansas 8, OK State at 7, and Vandy at 6.
Okay, yeah. Any team you particularly want to say like you think is most deserving of that spot, or just let us pass to the next person? They can argue with you.
I just think Vandy deserves to be over OK State. I don't feel like Vandy's ever been a high scoring team, and I think OK State. I mean, it was the first years of the year. I think they got the better of them, but I think Vandy is just the overall better team.
Yeah, it was tough because like OK State, they on Benji, no one's better to qualified to comment on this one than Benji. Yeah, it was just it's strange to say like the team that lost 2-3 just feels like the better team, but I feel the same way.
So, honestly, like I have Oklahoma State at 4 and Vandy at 8. Or at 9. Sorry, at 9. I got NC State at 10, Vandy at 9, Virginia at 8, Oregon State at 7, and 6 is Arizona. My argument with all of those, just from what I've seen, especially with Vandy and OK State, like I'm seeing better run production and pitching from Oklahoma State. Granted, this one game that they just played, Wright State, was a little faulty game, and obviously losing 2-3, I take that into consideration a lot because, yeah, it was the first series, but at the same time, Vanderbilt should have taken that series with their pitching if it was as dominant as what everybody thinks it is. And having both, I'm taking OK State over Vandy, probably 8 out of 10 times.
Yeah, it's tough to argue because like you can't argue with results. I mean, OK State did the damn thing. They went in to Vanderbilt and won 2 out of 3. So yeah, I it's really, if anyone has the better leg to stand on, I think it's you. We're kind of projecting, I think, what we think Vandy's pitching staff is going to be, but like,
Yeah.
the,
I mean, they're great. Don't get me wrong.
all credit in the world has to go to OK State because they came in there and took care of business. Like I said, I thought they came out flat against Houston, and then it was concerning to me to see them play Wright State. That's giving me a little bit doubt of confidence, but again, I can't. Is one thing I heard somebody say about that Long Beach Mississippi State series. Like for Long Beach, that series is going to age really well, and that's like predicated upon Mississippi State's success. Like looking back and saying, "Wow, what a good series win for Long Beach." That OK State series win against Vanderbilt is going to age really well because Vandy's always going to take care of business. Like the SEC is going to be really tough this year, but Vanderbilt's a consistent college baseball powerhouse.
So I'm switching up my rankings a little bit as we're
Whoa.
talking. I know, right? That's allowed here. This is a no rules podcast. I got Vandy at 10.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech at 9, Miami at 8, Georgia at 7, Oregon State at 6.
Georgia at 7. Okay.
Georgia at 7.
Oh my.
That's
We're gonna have to tear.
Yeah, that's silly.
We're gonna have to tear this up. Okay, so say that again.
Vandy at 10, Georgia Tech at 9, Miami at 8, Georgia at 7.
Georgia is whooping ass though right now.
Yeah.
They are whooping ass.
Yeah. There's I don't see anything wrong with the way Georgia's playing right now. I mean,
I got Georgia right outside my top 10, so
I mean,
that's decent.
I think they're just an overall solid team. I don't.
They look a little
I'm
better
not
than
gonna rank.
LSU.
I'm not gonna rank any team in my top 10 that loses to Harvard by 5 runs. Is all I'm gonna say.
That's fine.
And then beat them 2-1 the next.
I didn't pay attention to the midweek because
Thank you, Brendan.
I didn't pay attention.
That
a
wasn't
lot to the
midweek. That was this weekend.
Georgia?
No, it was
Yeah.
Miami.
Nope.
was
I
Miami.
say Miami.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Again,
But
a lot of this was just Miami. I don't know. I feel like they're gonna come through. Just watch.
so I'm predisposed against Georgia. To their credit, I just looked at their schedule, and for some reason I had in my head like they've been underwhelming against less competitive competition.
I mean, I think that's a fair statement.
but maybe we're having our like
I mean,
state
1-0
of
against
point of
Akron.
reference. We're having a point of reference maybe just like distorted a little bit by the Tennessees of the world that are putting up 27 runs a game.
Yeah, it's also hard to play against that. I mean,
So yeah, I think I saw the 1-0 victory against Akron.
yeah.
And then like 7-6 against Albany and 4-2. Actually, okay, that is what I saw for Georgia. They swept Albany, but
Mhm.
2 of the victories were 4-2 and
7-6,
7-6. So it's like, I don't know, it just wasn't dominating. I definitely have them in my top 25, but for me, top 10 is definitely a stretch.
It's fair.
But I can hear you. I can hear you.
And then
yeah.
I got Tech at 9. I mean, I just like Tech. I like Tech baseball. I mean,
This is a Tech podcast.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech podcast.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with one, their stadium, beautiful. 2, I mean, they're just good. They're just overall good at baseball every year. And then my 10 spot Vandy. I mean, yeah, they're doing good. I expected a lot more out of them. So I don't think they're
You're telling me, man.
very deserving of that 10 spot.
I mean, they did lose.
I wouldn't be
They
surprised to
lost
see them.
Leiter too. They lost Leiter, which hurts them.
Well, yeah.
And
That's
Well,
what
and-
the biggest
Rocker, right?
And
loss,
Kumar
honestly.
Rocker.
That's one thing I wanted to show. Yeah, Kumar Rocker is a big one too. They're 2 best pitching. were both lost. I
Yeah.
forgot to bring that up earlier today. Earlier.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That's
be
been
surprised if I see
really
him slip
showing.
from the top 10 in a lot of polls. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
have them
Like,
right outside the top 10.
yeah, definitely
At 11.
not falling far. There'll always be
No.
a top 25 team, but I expected a lot more out of them.
Yeah, I kept them in my top 10 at 8 just solely based off of reputation,
Yeah,
honestly.
they're like Georgia Tech. I mean, they consistently have a powerhouse baseball team, and they find ways to get games won.
Where are you guys ranking Mississippi State at? Do you guys have them in your top 10?
I don't have them in my top 15.
No.
They're not even
I have
playing
mine.
baseball, in my opinion.
Haven't even written their name down yet.
What's going on with them? What's the deal?
Long
Past hour
Beach
and a half?
Long Beach State beat them 3-0, 13-3. They have lost their
Long
last
Beach State's
four.
a good team, though.
They
They are good.
Yeah, okay. They've lost their last four. 12-4 to Mississippi State, 1-0 to Sacramento State, and dropped their last two 5-4 to Sacramento State. That is not a team that you need to be dropping anything.
you're talking about Long Beach, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not ranking any team in my top 15 that has Sims. He's the worst pitcher in college baseball. He's grossly overrated.
Didn't you lead off this podcast with one of
That
your-
was my week 1 recap. Week
Okay.
2, worst pitcher in college baseball.
Week 1 recap. Sims best pitcher in college baseball. Week 2, Sims worst pitcher in
wanna
college
talk-
baseball.
I don't want to talk too much about teams that are like consensus out of the top 10. Mississippi State for me is 22, and
Yeah, I think
Like-
that's a fair ranking.
Not even top 50.
yeah.
Iona before them.
Yes.
Whoa. Okay. All right. So my first team out of the top 10 is Florida State. Again, contrary to the normal Florida State team like roster build, they've been very pitching heavy and not as offensive heavy, and they've lost a couple of key games to Stanford and Jacksonville. So I think they have potential, but I want to see more. Top 10 or 10 through 5 is Arkansas. Again, need to see the bats. Like, they just have not come awake. Arkansas at 10, LSU at 9, Oregon State at 8, Arizona 7, and then Stanford Vandy 6-5. And probably I could switch out maybe Stanford and Vandy.
Yeah. I like that.
Who hasn't got? So you just, what are your first team out and then 10
I
through
got
5?
First team outs.
And if you say the Sooners, I swear to God.
No,
They're the first team in.
no.
They're at 10.
They're-
Consensus mediocre
The
team.
Sooners are top 50. I'll give them top 50.
That's cool. That's a sweet ranking.
10, 11, I got Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. And then 9, I got Arizona, 8, Stanford, 7, LSU, and then 6, Arkansas. So,
You're giving LSU a spot?
I'm giving LSU a spot, man.
LSU deserves a spot, man. They haven't done anything to really lose it.
I got LSU at
LSU's my
9.
first team out.
I got him at 6.
Yes,
So
I
I
think
think
they're for sure top 15 for sure.
I think the biggest like conversation point here is that Virginia, right? Like, we've got them amongst our group as high as 5, and let's talk a little bit about them because I think who hasn't given their top 10 through 5?
I haven't yet. So
Well, hit us with it, and then we can talk about Virginia.
Yeah, so I think my first team out of the top 10 would probably have to go to, no surprise to anybody here, Texas Tech. Just because I think they have the production that they can bring. I mean, they got Coleman hitting 2 home runs today. They're getting production pretty much every game from Stillwell. Got Chase Jung playing second. Just pretty consistent every single game. Dylan
Young hit his
Carter out in
first home
center
run.
field. Yeah, you got Dylan Carter hitting his first home run today. I think they just have a solid core that if you know they got 3 or 4 pieces that can kind of step up a little bit, I think they could easily crack the top 10 at some point in the season. I don't think they'll stay there, but I think they could definitely get there. And then at 10, I got Arizona, Oregon State at 9, just because of like Benji had said when he was recapping them, basically up and down, plate discipline, pitching's there. They're kind of just an all-around complete team at the moment. And like I said, I kept Vandy at 8 just off of pure reputation, or else I would have dropped them out of my top 10 if they were pretty much anybody else. Arkansas at 7, and then good old LSU at 6.
Is it Go LSU? Is that how you say it?
Go Tigers.
Yeah. So we've talked enough about Virginia. I think there's no doubt that they have the upside. I think I want to see a little bit more pitching and hitting combined to put them in the top 10. But I feel it. I think the only
listening to your guys' points, I switched my Virginia and NC State. So,
question:
Good
Does
man.
anybody
Good man.
have UC Irvine in the top 25?
No.
Actually, they were my first team out of the top 25. I put this in my. Did I put this in any of my bios? I'm not sure. So I saw 2 College World Series. One of them was 2007, where UC Irvine set the College World Series record for longest game ever played against Fullerton, like
You
5
attended
hours
that
and
game,
40.
didn't you?
I was there.
You attended-
Yeah, I was
yeah.
there. So I've always loved go anteaters, eat the little anteater sniffing. But yeah, I think they've dropped several games that they shouldn't have by run differentials that they shouldn't have. So I love to see some of there are several teams that we haven't covered because they're not Power 5 teams. Like Long Beach State we talked about actually pretty well. They beat Mississippi State and then they've really underperformed since then. UC Irvine's one that they were preseason top 25 and they've really dropped out since.
Coastal Carolina is another talking point too, I think.
Do you have some? Yeah, have you followed them closely at all? Because I saw that
I saw they
think
won
they
a
were
couple
tearing-
big name games. But yeah, I have them for sure in the top 40. Because they went to the College World Series, 4 years ago?
Yeah, Coastal just beat Illinois today, 6-2.
See?
I haven't really been following them that much, but that's the only thing I know about them.
there are some other teams like UC Santa Barbara that I think is actually doing really well. People are so okay. Let's touch this last topic before heading out for the night. What do you think about ranking teams that came in and had big series against ranked teams? Like off the top of my head, so Bryant, right? They swept ECU. Turns out ECU maybe not so great so far, but Liberty. Like I saw people ranking Liberty in the top 25 after they beat Florida in a series, and I don't know. Like I'd rather drop Florida down a couple pegs than like vault a team like Liberty in the top 25 immediately. Anybody have any?
Yeah, I think it's too early in the season to put those teams up there until they continue to win.
Maryland's another one that they won the series at Baylor to start the year. And then I can't remember who they were playing this weekend, but then like Baylor, I think dominated Duke, this weekend. So maybe Maryland deserves a little bit more credit that I was giving them. Maybe we'll see where the rankings have them in the top 25 coming out. Since we're recording Sunday night and publishing Monday morning, they'll be out this morning for all of you listeners or viewers, whatever. Okay, any final thoughts? I want to say thanks again for all 5 of you acquaintances for dropping in, and for any listeners that are tuning in. We're pretty excited about this, and
Very
really
much so.
excited about college baseball in general. If you're missing Major League Baseball, feel free to come and spend some time with us. Any final thoughts? Yeah, I want to see Tommy Taters continue his streak.
100%. See if he can
It'd be crazy to see if Tennessee can beat some like NCAA records or something like that for runs scored.
run scored in a season.
Yeah.
Not a talking point on a team, but I guess it is my team. Penn just beat Texas A&M. 8-5.
Penn.
It's tough because I know Texas A&M just the head coach from TCU is at A&M now, Jim Schlossnagel, I think is his name. But yeah, they're starting off rough.
Before we head out, you want to recap who won this week?
I think we
If you follow us on Twitter and Instagram, we're going to post the final scores there. So you
Oh,
can follow our fantasy more
fantasy-wise.
closely on our social medias.
Fantasy-wise,
Oh
I
yeah,
was
fantasy
talking
wise. Gotcha.
Yeah, thank you,
Can I
Benji.
can I can I chime in one more time?
Please.
Okay. Next week,
Oh, God.
the Sooners are playing LSU, UCLA, and Tennessee.
Yeah, actually, Brennan, you said you had a little bit on that Shriners Classic?
No, I got that for next week. I really want to touch on that pretty heavy for next week.
Next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think that's going to be a huge series.
So you said it was OU, LSU, or UCLA, and
So OU's playing LSU, UCLA, and Tennessee that weekend.
Tennessee. Okay. Tennessee's the fourth team. Is it, that's
GG's,
what
So-
brother.
Yeah, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, have fun with that. That's
Are
not
you gonna be
fun.
taking your third loss in a third straight week? Or what?
I think they can go 2-1. I think OU can go 2-1. Beat LSU, beat UCLA, and get throttled by Tennessee. That's my projection.
You might want to go 1-2 on that one.
Clip that, mods. Clip that.
For for anybody that's following along the fantasy scoring, which again, that's all on our website now. Again, this is all done in Google Sheets that I did myself, so there may be some formatting irregularities from here and there. But we're looking at, for Suges and Brendan, it was a race to the bottom again for Suges.
I've played the
Thanks
worst
to
sport twice in a week.
Carolina.
Yeah, thanks to a lot of Suges' ranked teams underperforming, he's really finding himself in a hole now, 0-2. Although I should say I can't really talk because I'm going to be heading into this week 0-2 as well. First week, Stanford really tanked me on Saturday, and this weekend I'm
Tennessee.
actually I got a participation trophy for, I think I had the Benji experience, or I don't know who that was last week.
No, that was me.
That was you.
Me and
then
Jowers
you
were the
repaid
two
me then?
highest scoring teams, and I just happened to be the second highest scoring person that week. In week
Yeah,
one.
so I think I was.
Goes that way sometimes, you know.
It do be like that.
It do be
sometimes.
like that.
Bro, I was in at least top. I can't. Sorry, my thing's not loading right now. But I had a great score this week. My ranked teams actually came through, and it's tough to win when Tennessee is putting up 30 runs a game. 30 runs in a baseball game.
Don't
They
forget
were
about the ones
104.
or twos as the other score.
Like let's not lose sight of just how ridiculous that is.
Yeah, no.
So
Yeah,
I
what
took
I'm not
another
looking
L
forward
this
to
week.
next Sunday. I'm not looking forward to next Sunday.
yeah. And then what was the last matchup? It was TJ and
Benji.
Benji. Yeah. So what happened there? What's the outcome?
It was a close game. I
I
don't.
won.
Yeah, Benji got the better of me. I don't know the
I won by
exact.
100 points.
Okay, well, I don't know if that's
337 to 239.
I think he was trying to forget about that.
all right. So he did not win by 100 points. He won by 98 points.
It was pretty much accredited to that Notre Dame throttling of Maryland 20-2.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
300%.
100%. Notre Dame came in clutch. They've been a huge asset for me.
Yeah,
this week.
I mean
Or
today
this
was my only
season so far.
game, or only day over 100. So I mean I just put up just average numbers the whole weekend series. So
But you've been consistent though. At least.
Yeah, no,
You
I-
haven't been in the negatives like me.
yeah, I haven't recorded a day in the negatives, and I think I only have 2 or 3 teams that have put up like -1 and -2. So I mean,
Yeah, Friday Notre Dame put up 76, and OK State yesterday put up 92. So you can thank those two teams for go ahead and putting you a nice little L in that column.
that's fine. You know, it's the first week, so second week.
I think what TJ's saying is it's nice to have the first and second round pick.
Yeah, I'm not disappointed at all. So, who am I playing next week? Am I playing Brendan next week?
Let me check
Oh,
the.
yeah, what are the
Yeah. What are the upcoming
So, yeah,
matchups?
So
We'll be posting the upcoming
Friendly
matchups on our
banter.
socials too.
Next week's going to be a little tough for
I've done all
the good
this
old
myself,
Tigers.
So we are. So we're not. So just to clarify, we're not going to be previewing every single college baseball matchup because it's been enough legwork to cover the first 2 weekends of college baseball in detail. Thursday's episode, or Thursday, Friday, is going to be detailing the weekday baseball and what's coming up the following weekend in our fantasy league. Week 3 will feature TJ, who will be 1-1, paying a visit to Suges.
Oh,
who
baby.
is 0-2. So Suges will be looking for his first
Yeah,
win.
make sure you play those Oklahoma Sooners in that series.
I will, bro. Against LSU and UCLA, at least. I don't know about Tennessee, though.
So 1-1 Eric will be looking to continue his winning streak against Brennan. And
Tennessee, baby.
the mismatch of the week is myself, the 0-2. I guess we don't have conference names, so I can't really say the 0-2 Travis. Taking on Benji, who has not lost yet.
I thought we
so
made
far.
conference names.
Yeah, the Knights who say knee.
Bang bang.
Yeah, Brennan's the Knights Who Say Knee. I'm the Kershaw Shank Redemptions. Yeah, I don't know.
And the others.
Well, my conference name got co-opted into the name of the podcast, so I'm not really sure what to do anymore.
Someone can be the Honey Nut Ichiros.
Oh,
Yo,
pass.
I like that one.
Anyway, all right. Well, so seriously, to anyone who's watching or listening, thank you so much for choosing to spend like an hour and a half of your time with us. If you want to follow college baseball more closely, we're going to be posting more for our Instagram and Twitter feeds.
And TikTok.
Feel free and and TikTok, our resident TikTok expert.
And YouTube.
My final thought for the podcast is I want to see how long Tommy Tanks keeps this up. It's becoming must-watch TV where I'm having an NC State game tracker going on in the background of my browser and monitoring when he's at the plate. We'll see how long it lasts. But again, thank you for tuning in. We look forward to spending the rest of the college baseball season with you as these teams move down the road to Omaha.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, guys. Signing off. We'll catch you guys on Thursday or Friday.